State John Kerry was in the River City this evening, ginning up support for former Vice President Joe Biden.
KIMT News 3's Nick Cruz was at tonight's rally. He joins us live now from Mason City. Nick?
Well, George and Katie, right behind me is the Biden campaign headquarters here in Mason City. And earlier tonight, it really was a packed house. And just to kind of let you in on the mood here at the campaign headquarters, it was like a rock star had shown up. The mostly Democratic voting crowd seemed to hang on every single word that Kerry had to say.
It's very special for me to be able to have a chance on behalf of Joe to share some thoughts with you tonight.
Former Secretary of State John Kerry spoke to a packed room this evening, sharing his passion about climate change.
Someone who happens to be the President of the United States can call what thousands of scientists have certified is human created. He calls it a Chinese hoax.
Several times during his rally, Kerry called out the president for largely ignoring what he calls a worldwide crisis. The attacks on Trump didn't stop there. After the rally, I had a chance to ask the former Secretary of State about his thoughts on the Iran crisis.
President Trump, by pulling out of an agreement that worked, has actually made the world more dangerous. That nuclear weapon that we took off the table may now come back onto the table. And he says, well, I want to get rid of a nuclear weapon. We already had gotten rid of the nuclear weapon.
Kerry then went on to explain why former Vice President Biden should be Iowa's choice to move into 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Joe Biden has unparalleled experience. There's nobody else who's running that has passed major legislation in the United States Senate that has changed life for Americans the way Joe Biden has.
A spokesperson for the RNC reacted to the Biden-Kerry tour of Iowa, saying after 3 presidential campaigns and decades of campaigning in Iowa, caucus goers are all too familiar with Joe Biden and John Kerry, and they aren't impressed. Just as they did in the decades before, Iowans look forward to adding 2020 to the Biden-Kerry presidential rejection list. Susan Bangert says she's not rejecting Biden. In fact, Kerry's pep talk this evening may have this Iowan caucusing for the former VP.
I've listened to all the candidates that I could, but I have come to the conclusion after listening to Secretary of State, former Secretary of State Kerry, that I do think Joe Biden has the experience that we need.
Well, the tone of tonight's speech was definitely nostalgic, bringing those Democratic voters back to what they call the good old days of the Obama administration, with Kerry saying those days could return if they vote for Biden. Live in Mason City, Nick Cruz, KIMT News 3.
Thanks, Nick. February 30 is the big day for the Iowa caucuses. And of course, KIMT News 3 will be bringing you complete coverage of the historic political events.
We track storms to alert you first. This is KIMT Storm Team 3, weather coverage you can count on.
KIMT Storm Team 3 Chief